Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas, coming off a very interesting weekend in basketball and football. Hank, good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
I apologize to you. I called you when I had some information that Minnesota was going to run the football against the Dolphins, which they did. They ran for over 200 yards. But as usual, the quarterback, when the spotlight's not on him, had a big day. I had Minnesota, but I played the under based on the information I had, and they did run the ball. But the Dolphins got pretty well beat there, and I guess they're fairly well out of it right now. The Minnesota quarterback, when the spotlight's not on him, he can play well. And when the spotlight is on him, he's terrible. And, it wasn't a highly profiled game yesterday, and he found his receivers, and he made some good plays, and the Dolphins only scored on a couple of long runs, otherwise they would have been shut out. Anyway, the other game that I had that was really disgusting to me was the bowl game, Middle Tennessee. I was anxious to see what Scottsdale was going to do, and he was terrible. He had they put a lot of pressure on him. Appalachian State really crushed him, and that was a game. And there was another game that was supposed to be all the sharps were on, which was one of the other bowl games where the favorite, I forget which game. Anyway, the favorite got beat.
Georgia Southern?
Georgia Southern, yeah.
Right. Yep.
As far as the NFL goes, Dallas and the Giants shut out, both of them on the same day. And the Giants are eliminated now, should be. But Dallas, I'll tell you, that quarterback, you can't depend on him at all. And, they're going to win that division because they got a nice advantage going forward, and they got a favorable schedule going forward. But they're going nowhere.
I agree with that.
I don't think Prescott can take them anywhere. Indianapolis is playing well right now, but the team to watch is Tennessee. They went into the Meadowlands, which can be a tough place this time of year. Bad weather there, and that's not an easy place to play. But Henry, their running back, is playing great right now, and it's helping Mariota. And their defense is good, and they're very well coached.
Yeah, they discovered Henry, and he's made a big difference, that's for sure. 400 yards in 2 games. Wow.
Giants defense had a really tough day, and they couldn't stop the run. The big question mark for me right now is what's going on with the Rams. I said on Friday that I liked Philadelphia. I thought they were better off with Foles. One thing, but the difference between Foles and the other quarterback was that the other quarterback had zeroed in on the tight end and was making most of his successful throws to him. Foles opened up to the offense and was not afraid to throw the ball downfield and was making completions to his wide receivers. And I think it took the Rams by surprise. But the Rams have now lost a couple of games in a row, and Goff is not playing well. And then Gurley got hurt in the game and had to come out for a long period of time. And their offense was all about Gurley in the first half. I think the coach read what the criticism was, that he wasn't using Gurley enough, so he overused him in this game. I think, his star's fallen a little bit. But Goff had a lot of pressure on him, and the Philadelphia defense came around. And then when they went into a soft defense, because they had a huge lead, and Goff brought them to win the touchdown. but he's missing a couple of receivers there, and I'll tell you the big shock to me was, and I know a lot of people had San Francisco in that game, but Seattle losing in overtime to them, and that really hurt Seattle's chances, and I don't know where they're going right now. Russell Wilson has been off, and they didn't run the ball well against Seattle, and that's what cost them the game.
Yeah, they haven't looked particularly sharp the last couple of weeks. But getting beat by, well, the Niners, non-usual team. They played the end of last year. They played very well. I think they won their last 5 games. This year, they're kind of doing the same thing again. Playing very well.
They just keep hitting tight ends. That's their offense.
Well,
and for some reason, Seattle's defense never caught on to that.
well,
But I thought when they got into overtime, Seattle would win, and they came out and couldn't do anything offensively in their one possession. They did nothing.
I know. I watched.
And where was Russell Wilson?
He doesn't look sharp right now. That's for sure. Some of these teams peaked early, and right now they're starting to look flat. You were talking about the Rams. I mean, nobody peaked more than they did. Even the Saints peaked early and flattened out for a couple games.
Yeah, but they're strong. They're fine now. You'll see them tonight against Carolina. They won't have a problem. And they're going to be home.
They will be home for the playoffs. Yes, they will.
Although next week I think they've got, Pittsburgh's going in there next week.
They are.
I'll tell you something. Pittsburgh is not good either. They played their usual game. They had 14 points in the first half, and that was it. They did nothing in the second half. They got a field goal. Roethlisberger did nothing in the second half. Offensively, they did nothing in the second half, and then the game was there for New England to take. They couldn't take it.
Yeah, it's interesting. They have Kansas City is going to Seattle, the late game next Sunday night, and they've installed Kansas City a 2.5-point road favorite in Seattle.
Is that Sunday night or Saturday night?
Sunday night. That's an interesting line. It's not often you see Seattle a home dog. The Saturday games, Washington against Tennessee, which is a meaningless game. But Baltimore visits.
Not for Tennessee, it's not.
Well, they definitely have motivation. Baltimore visits the Chargers.
The Tennessee's got a good shot to make the playoffs.
Well, I haven't studied the ramifications of each game and who's got motivation yet. It's still early, but I haven't read all that. But I know they have an outside shot. Baltimore and the Chargers.
Wait, let me just correct you there. Tennessee has better than an outside shot right now. They have a good chance to win out, and if they do, they could be in very easily.
Well, the discovery of good coaching staff and the running back that's getting monster yardage. Baltimore visits the Chargers. That's a big game. Chargers.
That's a Saturday game.
That's a Saturday. Yeah. That's a Saturday game. That's the late game on Saturday. And the Chargers are a 4.5-point favorite in that game. In Baltimore, their running game with this new quarterback, it's still effective. They're still doing it.
Yep, they're playing very well right now. Their defense is playing well, and that quarterback has been tough for teams to solve. So, but the Chargers are playing very well right now too. So some people think the Chargers are playing better than anybody else in the AFC right now.
Oh, I agree. I think they are. I think they are. They probably
With all the problems that New England has right now, and their defense is not playing all that great, but they can still get in. They may have to put a wild card around the way things shape up right now. So they would be home for their wild card game, and if they won the wild card game, they would probably go to Houston, and they always beat Houston, which would put them in the championship game again.
New England this week is playing Buffalo. They are in New England, 13-point favorite, and Houston is. Hold on. Of course, another interruption. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And Houston is, where are they at this week? They're playing at Philadelphia, and the game is right now. It's pick'em.
Yeah.
That's an interesting matchup right there, especially after what we saw last night. Very interesting. Cleveland is still playing very well. Marginal opportunity to get in the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. Anything else on your mind, Hank?
Well, we got some bowl games this week, and more bowl games, which are kind of tough to predict. It's kind of, this is the time of year when, teams that don't have motivation or don't usually have motivation at this time are playing with motivation. And I think part of the reason is that there has never been a better time for free agents with the money going up. And so what you see is the teams that are used to have their suitcases packed, their players are trying hard. I'll tell you, Buffalo had a decent win, although they didn't cover, against Detroit this past weekend. They've been pretty good at home. Their defense is playing decently right now. And the rookie quarterbacks, that's the other story, how the rookie quarterbacks are playing. The Jets rookie quarterback had a good game last weekend. It's interesting. He's getting pretty good coaching, I would say, right now. Jeremy Bates is a good coach, and he's the quarterback coach there, doing a nice job with it. He's brought him along the right pace, and Jet fans have that to watch. The Giants are done. What happens to Eli Manning now? That's a good question with that franchise. New York is, their teams aren't going anywhere. The Eagles are back in contention to slip into the playoffs right now. But if Tennessee keeps winning, I don't think they can go past Tennessee.
That's a great story. Foles come in again and save the season like he did last year. It's very interesting if that should happen. He played well last night, that's for sure.
Kind of makes you wonder if he had been playing earlier, where they'd be right now.
Well, yeah, Wentz didn't get back into form all that quickly after his surgery last year. He missed the first two games. Foles did play those first two games. But when Wentz came back and took over, he was marginal. And they really never got in track. I mean, the best
I'll
game
tell you this, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
the best game they played all year was last night.
Yeah. Yeah, the defense played much better than it has been too. I'll tell you another team that we haven't mentioned, and that's the Bears. It wasn't a surprise that they beat Green Bay the way they did, but the Bears right now, that defense and that running game, Trubisky played a nice game on the weekend, and they are right now. They're playing great football, and I don't think they're going to have to go on the road right away.
Well, they won the division, so they were celebrating quite heavily for that. And it's been a while, but they did win their division. They're playing this week at San Francisco. They opened, interesting, they opened a 4.5-point favorite, immediately went down to 3 and 3.5. A lot of money came in on San Francisco in that game. There is a possibility that they might have celebrated. It's a big accomplishment what they did. Of course, San Francisco's playing free and loose. They have nothing to lose. Looking forward to next year. And then San Francisco has a great offensive game plan. Of course, that's Kyle Shanahan, who had that great offensive game plan with Atlanta a couple of years ago when they led the league in scoring. And they're doing it with a backup third-string quarterback that was undrafted. It's an interesting team for next year.
Well, when they get their starting quarterback healthy, they immediately go up a few points in people's opinions.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Garoppolo will be back, and assuming he's 100% healthy, that's going to be a pretty tough team. Very competitive. But, Kansas City, Seattle.
With the new coordinator of Minnesota yesterday, they only threw the ball 21 times, and they ran the ball for over 200 yards. Of course, they were playing the Dolphins, who somehow have picked up 7 wins this year. But anyway, I think they've gone as far as they're going to go.
Yeah, well, Minnesota, they were very effective with their passing game, only 21 passes, but they were very effective in scoring. That's why the game went over. Their running game...
I keep talking Tennessee, but they're ahead of Minnesota right now.
That's going to be a couple good spots this week to look at. Tennessee's a big favorite this week. 10.5 points. Anything in basketball that you want to bring up or talk about?
Well, soon they get into conference play. But I'll tell you who's having a good year right now. Tulsa beat Dayton yesterday. That may not mean a lot, but Tulsa has been winning. The coach there is a good friend of mine, Frank Haight. I talked to him when he was in Las Vegas for a tournament, and he's got his team playing pretty well. They beat, I think they beat Oklahoma State a couple of weeks, the week before last, and they may be they may be doing something in their conference, but Dayton had been playing very well, and Tulsa beat them yesterday. It's kind of a surprise. So that's one of my under-the-radar teams to keep an eye on.
Good tip to watch out for. You know, you mentioned Oklahoma State. Well, they played Nebraska yesterday and got absolutely smoked. Nebraska has done some good things so far this year.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. Basketball is going to take center stage pretty soon. Bowl games will be over. And the It's going to be really good. Hank's plays and mine are up at jimfeist.com. Are there any horses coming up? Any races coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Well, they had a grass race at Gulfstream yesterday. It was supposed to be the precursor to the big grass stakes race on Pegasus Day, and they had a big the grass horses that are running here domestically are not very good, and I think a $40 horse won that race. And there were some pretty good stakes race horses from New York in that race who did not perform. Of course, they had a lot of rain there, and the turf course was very soft. So, but right now, the end of the year, there's not much going on, and the next big race will be in about 3 weeks, and that's the Pegasus, which will be run for a lot of money at Gulfstream.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Hank, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, and everybody out there, I want to thank you for tuning in. We're going to have another big week coming up. We got a lot of hoops and football, and got the holidays 8 days away from Christmas. Hank, we'll talk to you again on Wednesday. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody. And go to jimfeist.com to get all the information on our picks as well. Thanks, Hank.
Okay. Well,